Okay, so I'm excited to share with you guys. We've got our guys on here as well. We all just got back from Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins, and I know you, Jen, have done it as well. And so Missy was there, Garrett and Melanie were there, Richard and I were there. We had our kids there, and they also brought we also brought Christian's girlfriend. So we just had the most unbelievable weekend ever. And so we wanted to share just some nuggets and takeaways that we our experience with you guys. Would you like to hear?
Yep.
Awesome. So you guys know that we all are now, just so you know, we are all celebrating being Firewalkers.
Woo!
I know. So I don't know if we want to start out with that experience and kind of, you know, how were you before you went to UPW, guys? And were you nervous for the Firewalk? And what did it mean to you? And then when it, you know, how did you end up on the other side of that?
Where do you want to go?
Who would like to go?
I'll be happy to.
Awesome.
So the Firewalk over the coals, you prepare for all on the first day. And when you prepare for it, I wrote myself some notes, so I try not to forget something because it makes sense to me. So what happened to me is my niece was here with me too, Kirsten, which some of you have met. And so she was with me. We'd separated because Reagan had mentioned that we should separate during that time because there's lots of emotional things that go on. Anyway, the people I was connected with, I had two people on my right and two people on my left, both a male couple here that I mean, they all came together. I don't know that they were all there together, rather. And so we'd go back and forth. Well, when we got going with the getting ready to go for the Firewalk, Tony said, grab a partner. So it was like, oops. And the one guy turned to me and I said, oh, are we going together? And he's going with somebody else? He said, yeah. So we get up and I'm thinking, okay, we walk out, we get out down on the concourse where we're starting to walk outside. And I realized that I'm the third wheel. They are actually going to be a couple together, and I'm kind of...
You got dumped?
Yeah, I got dumped. And so I'm thinking, so we'd been in state because we'd been pumping up, and that's part of how you get into state is you're getting yourself kind of euphoric about all the good things that are going on. And anyhow, I get down there and I go, shit. I'm the third wheel. And I just completely lost my mojo. And then I thought, no, you can't do that. You're going on a Firewalk. You got to get it back. So all the way out, I'm going, okay, you can do this. Yes, it's going to be fun. Yeah. And it was like I was schizophrenic. Okay. So, so you
are walking across 2,000-degree coals. I mean,
yeah. So finally we get up to the Firewalk, and we all have moves that you kind of, some people are pumping their chest. I had a little move, and you have certain things that you're going to say, and you get yourself there, and you're ready, and I'm ready. And the gal goes, okay, go. And I went, yeah. Ow. I lost my mojo. And so I felt it from the get-go that I kind of hesitated as I started across. And I have a good blister now to show for it. But so I get, but you're still kind of in this place going, I'm walking on fire. Ow, I'm walking on fire. Ow. It's all going a mile a minute. I get to the other side. There's two people there. They grab you, so you make sure you get your feet washed off. And we're supposed to celebrate on that side. And I went, it's over, I'm done. And I didn't do anything and walked and found my sort of partner and walked back in. And what came to me in all of this is one of my things is I hesitate before I move forward. And of course, the Firewalk is all metaphor. And the first, so just that was interesting. And then it was the next morning that it's all about celebrating. We need to celebrate our gifts and the good things. So Kirsten and I are walking in, I think it was before we met up with you and Garrett Mill. And I said, I'm trying to be okay with it, but I'm thinking, I didn't really do this right. And I didn't quite get myself in state. And then I have a blister on my foot and and then I stopped and thought, excuse my language, I learned it this weekend. I walked across fucking fire. And I'm worried about whether I did it right. It's like,
Exactly.
so that was a huge revelation. And I went, yeah, I'm pretty darn cool. And one of the things that we kept saying to ourselves is, I'm freaking awesome. And so it's like, I got to quit that, because that is a habit. And we need to celebrate all the time about everything, which was one of the takeaways too that I got was from Tony, was trade your expectations for appreciation. And I didn't quite get it until I was thinking it through afterwards. And it's like, well, yeah, I expected it to be a certain way. And when it wasn't, I went, I didn't do it right. I'm a failure. So it was a huge revelation for me. And then the other thing I wanted to, that kind of goes on with that is, he said at one point, so what's your favorite flavor of suffering? And I went, oh God, there it is. Beat myself up, tell me I'm not doing it right. I'm not perfect. It's not just the way it's supposed to be. It didn't come out exactly as I expected. Trade that in. And so that's my favorite flavor of suffering. And so I think that's the question I'm going to throw out to you, is think about that. What is I got such a visual with that, with the ice cream that I'm licking that tastes really bad when it's my suffering. So what is your favorite flavor of suffering? And I will ask you that, and that you need to then trade that in for appreciation and celebration, because it isn't worth it and you have to change it. And that's part of going to Tony Robbins, is learning how to change that. And that's what I feel pretty gifted with right now, is that I have some tools now. It's not simply motivational, where he makes those statements and then says, go get it. He gives you some specific things to work with, to work on. That's what the whole weekend's about. And so now you use that when you come back to get yourself out of those bad states and put yourself into state. And certainly you've heard Reagan talk about state, and it becomes clearer and clearer what that means as you're working all weekend on state, because that's really, in my mind, the focus is to find state and to know how to get there and to know how to stay there. And when you get out of it and beat yourself up with your favorite flavor, then you find your way back to it and you have a tool to get there. So those were my huge takeaways.
Yeah, because one of the things is we train ourselves to either be disappointed or happy, one of the two. And one of the things he said was, disappointment either destroys you or drives you. And where focus goes, energy flows. So interesting too, Missy, that I hadn't heard you say this before, was that you were saying, ow, 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 all the way across the fire.
Well, I was saying the little statement, but my mind was saying, owie, 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 go.
But it wasn't really owie, really, except for that one little spot.
No, it really wasn't. So that's the amazing piece, is that when you walk, I felt it and I thought, I knew I had a burn going, but then you're walking across going, but I really don't feel the rest of it, but I'm scared now. And there was nothing. So the point is too, that I was still in some kind of state, just not in the place I thought I should be. And so instead I was right where I needed to be, because I learned so much from that.
Yeah. Cause for me, walking across there, we've done it before. And even with that, I wasn't scared till I got right up there. And I think relating that back to our business, I still get scared sometimes too, but the difference is I just go for it. But I wasn't thinking about the hot coals. I was thinking about, oh, I wonder what the grass is going to feel like on the other side.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah, so I didn't even feel it. Like that wasn't even it. And then it was like, oh, how interesting. It's so cold. So.
Well, and I think the other piece is everyone else I talked to said, well, especially your kids said they thought theirs wasn't hot. And I'm thinking, I don't think that's true. I think they were just in the right state and they didn't feel it just like everyone else didn't feel it. You know, most people said, I couldn't even tell. I don't think it was hot. It wasn't hot. And it's like, I got proof it was hot.
You do. You've got a pretty good one. That's a good metaphor, though, and it's not going to kill you. That was probably a good blister to get. You know,
right.
Happens to you that next time you think about not hesitating when you're going to go talk to somebody or make that follow-up call or invite for an event or something, you know, just think about that.
Right.
You're good.
So here's to fire.
Fire. How about you, Mel and Garrett?
Go for it.
So the fire walk for me, I was not nervous at all leading up to it. I was sitting in the seat, doing all the hype, rocking to Pitbull, felt great. And it wasn't until kind of like, well, Reagan tell you, once we got up there, it was, you know, this kind of immediate anxiety came in. The thing that was kind of funny for me though, is Mel went first. And it was one of those, she did it, so I do it, right? I mean, she's just showing me the way and is on the other side and is absolutely flipping out in a positive way. Then I just, right? And I think that's, that was kind of interesting. I was just like, don't overthink it. You know, I was there, I said the words, I said the mantra, it went by really fast, but seeing somebody else already go through that, there was no time, or we were not in a place to start, or at least I was not, to think about excuses of why I wouldn't do it, or was I going to be okay? It was just go. And so having that partner go through that, you know, having Mel do that first was amazing, because I also know how sensitive Mel's feet are, like off the charts sensitive, right? And so to see her do that, I just had this total, like, I was convicted that I was going to be fine because someone else had just done it in front of me. So that was fun to see. I think my other, it's been really interesting being back for 24 hours. So the biggest thing I take away in general is the idea of celebration and having more fun.
Yeah.
And that we can rewire our bodies. And, you know, we got in the car last night and we took the littles, our two youngest, to dinner. And they said, will you turn the music on? And we turned it on. And I normally keep it very low and that's it. And I cranked it. And my body immediately, I started dancing and I was driving. I was making my seat happy. And it was really interesting to see that. And honestly, the boys looked up to us and they thought aliens had invaded their parents.
Will you turn? They're always like, they'll ask us 3 times, "We please turn it up. We please turn it up. Please turn it up." And we turn it up very little. They were like, "Turn it down."
But I think it's really interesting of just where I was. I mean, what those 4 days did around music and just the idea of having fun. And, you know, and kind of circling back to, you know, the last piece of that is I went on a hike with Harper tonight. And he's like, "Dad, today's been great. Everybody in the family's happy tonight." And it was one of those deals of like, because I know when the family's not happy, they always say it's mom. You know, if mom's not happy, no one's happy. Well, in my case, it's unfortunately if dad's not happy, no one's happy. But this idea of it really is our choice. And, you know, whatever that may be, you know, of just we choose what people think, who cares, if you're doing the right thing. And so this idea of just kind of letting go. And it was really fun to get to a place this weekend of being in my heart and not my head for maybe the first time in like forever. It was such an interesting place to be. And, you know, from the outside looking in, it's been interesting seeing where Mel is going of this mission of Juice Plus and finding health. And I think that's the other crazy thing. What we did this weekend, 16, 17 hours a day, very little food, a lot of water, a lot of movement. It also, if you don't have your health, you can't get into these states. And so what you all are doing and what you have to give somebody, it's like, it's the way for them to move on and to move to this place of where they can focus on the things and figure out how to help them choose to be happy, get happy now kind of thing. So it was, like I said, I like still vibrating. If nothing else, well, there was a lot of things, but it was fun. And I think we miss so much of that in everything we do. And we take it serious. We take too much too serious too, and just letting that all go it was amazing. It was like, and we should be doing, all of us, and you guys do a lot of it with your conferences, but every quarter or twice a year, like you got to find a way to keep growing and find experiences like this. Even if you think Tony Robbins is a kook, right? And a lot of people do. I got some of that feedback today, and I was like, I don't care. It was a great experience. Whatever you take from that, it's just continually putting yourself out there and finding those things.
Well, people that have never been to him would say that. If they'd been there, they would never say that, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that.
Well, thank you, and Richard, for inviting us and giving us the opportunity.
Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah, one of the things you said that I loved that I had written down in my notes, which I relate back to your story, Garrett, is the leader creates the momentum for the rest of the group.
Yeah.
And so the fact that Mel was the leader there, you didn't even think about it. You just went in right after her.
I was pulled. I didn't have to push myself across the threshold. I was pulled across the threshold.
It's such a better feeling, right?
It's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right, Mel?
Okay, well, weeks before the event, I got to this place where I was like, crap, I've been thinking about the Firewalk for like 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, no.
So I went in going, okay, this is, I don't know. And actually the day before, I think I told Garrett, I was like, I don't actually think I want to go. He was like, do you not want to go? We shouldn't go. And I was like, no, but I didn't have a good attitude about it, did I?
No.
I don't know what that was. I don't know where it came from. I just was like, I don't feel like I'm in the mood. I don't need a rah-rah session. Because actually after watching the Tony Robbins Netflix video.
Yeah, the I Am Not Your Guru.
I'm Not Your Guru, which was fantastic. I actually said, I don't think I love what he does. I get his message. I get that. I don't think I actually ever need to go to an event. I think I'm good with just listening to the CDs and that kind of stuff and get that. And so I was kind of in that spot. And then I got there and I felt like, okay, right off the bat, the first thing we do is this whole like, get up, you dance. I mean, there's dancers on stage. There's all of this stuff happening, and it's like this cheerleading session. And I was a cheerleader, so I can get into that, and I can do that. But I was like, that was the one reason I didn't want to go was this is going to be a rah-rah session. And so it was right off the bat, and I sat there and I thought, you know what? I can either just jump up and be in it and trust the leader, which when you sit there and you think, okay, there's tens of thousands of people, I'm not the first one to do this. He must know something. And I was like, fine, I'll just do everything he tells me to do and go for it. And so I did. And I think that's how I prepared for the Firewalk, was like, I'm just going to do exactly what he says. So, all right, get into the state. And I had a hard time having my move. I still don't have a move like that gets me there. I don't really know what that is. But once he started saying, yes, I could totally
move, right? That's my move.
Yes. So, and I could instantly get into state there. But, and then his real thing, I was like, okay, which piece of this am I always missing in my life? And of course that for me was like celebration. And I think, Reagan, you've told me that a million times. I mean, just for myself, I mean, celebrating all of the little things, the hard things, I wrote this down, and he'd have us celebrate, and I was like, he goes, okay, get up there, you make your move, you get into this state, and then you just go for it. And then the biggest piece of that was getting it to the other side and celebrating like a 2-year-old. And he was like, that's what Garrett is saying. He's like, you did that. He was like, you went crazy. And I did, but I was like, I couldn't feel that when I went across the coals, and actually I realized about myself that I do this anyway in things that scare me, or that I'm kind of out of my comfort zone, like mountain biking or whatnot, and I'm going down a hill or whatever, I just scream, and my kids make fun of me. You're like, Mom, stop screaming. So anytime I get out of my comfort zone, it's just kind of my mechanism that I do, and I screamed all the way across those coals outside and celebrated like a 2-year-old to feel like what that felt like. And I was jumping on strangers that I didn't know. And it was just really, really, really fun. And I don't know, I just felt so alive in that moment. And so like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I did it. I cannot believe I didn't burn the bottoms of my feet off. Like Garrett said, I have the most sensitive feet on the planet. Nobody can touch them, you know? And it was just really amazing.
No, I have the most sensitive feet. I got the blister.
No, you hesitated.
You win that one for sure.
Oh, that's so awesome.
So,
And
yeah.
thank you for doing this. Go ahead, Mel.
I mean, a big, huge thing is that, and it's like, you know, you get what you focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And I focused on, I was like, I'm going to get there and I'm going to celebrate like a 2-year-old. I'm going to get there and I'm going to celebrate like a 2-year-old. And that was really what I was focusing on, just like you were focused on the green grass.
Yeah.
Right? And that to me made, you know, all the difference. And I think about all these things that I focus on in our lives that really don't matter. Like Garrett's saying today, surely not everything in his day went perfect, right?
Right.
But we get to choose what state we're in. We're here with our kids and they notice. And
Awesome.
I think our customers notice, that our prospects notice when we're doing presentations. And it's so important for what we do and how we're showing up in the world and to attract other people to us, rather than, you know, pulling people along. So.
Awesome. Fantastic. And Kirsten, thank you for joining us. This is Kirsten. You guys, some of you have met Kirsten. She's also on our team and she lives in California, and she came along. You can tell that she is Missy's niece. They look just like each other. How about you, Kier?
Oh my God. Well, I still don't have a voice. I scream so loud. Well, first, Garrett, I love the way you just explained your experience. And I love both of your insights that I just heard. It were great reminders to me. There's so much material, but the one definitely in that place, and that on the last day when we were just dancing, I've been showing my kids the video of us just like, you know, just rocking out after having such an intense experience. And just looking down and seeing him like just playing with his drumsticks and just like loving the room and the room loving him. I just was thinking, God, this has got to, I mean, this is life, like really having fun and enjoying what you do. And so that the secret to life is raising your standards.
That's right.
So it's so true. Yeah, I mean, I this morning, last night, even just the like taking the moment and focusing on the moment without worrying about like all the other stuff.
Sorry, I think my internet went out for a minute there. Shoot. Hey, babe.
the computer audio. I don't see now. I don't see them, so I don't know. Their internet connection is unstable.
Did you have problems earlier? I think it's me. Oh, okay.
Okay, so Kier, tell us what you were in the middle of saying what you were.
Oh, yeah. So just to remember to have fun, to raise your standards. I love the way that he, I'm overwhelmed by what I learned, to tell you the truth. But from an application standpoint, my kids just walked in. From an application standpoint, like I did the breathing today, the 30 up, and breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out 30 times, which is this breathing that he taught us. Totally invigorated me. I didn't sleep much because I don't, and it woke me up. And then we got the kids, like Missy and I turned on some music, and my kids were asleep. We turned on some music and started doing some co-dancing just to up the energy. And it's just a reminder of just how important it is to get into that peak performance and have that intentionality about what you're going to do. Don't get too close to what you're going to do for the day and where you're going to focus is going to be. And as a final note, I was coaching all day today. And so this one man was talking about the fact that he could you not wrestle here? That he wasn't able to speak, that he needed to speak up more. And so I said, what's the deal? Like, what's behind that? Anyways, we, with a few questions, we got to kind of the need for significance, although I didn't call it out that way. And then we talked about, I was able to ask him, like, where do you think this came from? And he immediately, because he'd been really holding back and not sharing. And he immediately then, when I said, well, where's the first time you felt this? And immediately he yelled, college. And then like with no hesitation for the first time. And then we started talking a little bit more about his need to be right and all that stuff. And then I said, well, was there any time before college that you felt like that? Like sometimes like moms or dads really want you to, like having, things be right. And he's like, oh my God, my dad for sure. And then we went into a little bit more in just minutes, and he just started pouring out. And then he stopped. He's like, well, this is really deep. And I'm like, oh, sweetheart, you have no idea how deep you can go. And then we talked about what would be the replacement of that belief. And by the end, he was so jazzed. Like, he's like, I'm going to go research failure and find failure. And so I can embrace it. And it was just fun to see that, experience kind of shift and change. And, I think it's just a reminder that whole, if you apply it, if you step into that learning, then you'll see some immediate results. And I guess the final one was that a whole story around, if you are good, like poor will get you poor results. Good will get you poor results. Excellent will get you good results, all of which are unacceptable results, because that's what I get right now. And but that whole comment of outstanding will get you outstanding results. that is a lesson that's resonating throughout today.
But with that goes, as you recall, you've got to start somewhere. So you have to start doing baby steps, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And he says, who needs to praise you? You need to praise you. And I think that is what kind of Missy kind of went back to, as she's beating herself up instead of praising herself.
Right.
Learned. And along with that was, a lot of people never want to get started because they don't want to be wrong, like your guy, right?
Right.
And he says you can't just know to understand something until you do it. You really can't know it. So he says it's not about having it first. It's about being. He says so you've got to do and then be and then you have. Where so many times because I need to know more. I need to do this, or I need to learn more about the research or whatever. We never get going versus just jumping in there. And he said, like a baby learns to walk. And the first time they fall down, you don't go, oh, you dumb baby, right? It's like, oh, yay, you did so good. So we need to praise, what we do get done and just know we're on the journey and we're going further. And and that also requires faith. And he says, the difference between fear and faith is fear is imagination undirected, and faith is imagination directed.
Yeah.
So, if we've got that faith that we're going forward, we can see ahead. Oh, I can imagine it's going to be great, right? Instead of imagining it's going to be bad, which is fear. Okay. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I love that. And that I have 10 pages of notes per day.
Yeah. Well, I could show you, I think I had 40 pages just from this UPW. So how about you, Richard, in the middle?
What kind of coach is Kirsten, please?
Oh, a performance coach, a business coach.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it was a lot different this time. So, because I guess I had the fireproof socks they handed out.
You could have passed them on.
I didn't realize everybody didn't get them. So once I put my Cool Moss socks on, I had no problem this time around. And of course, this is our second UPW for Reagan and I, and much different experience. The first one we did was in New Jersey. It was very, very cold. It was inside of a parking structure, covered parking structure. So they put the coals inside the parking structure. So it was, when we got out there, it was so crowded, so smoky, you couldn't tell what you were doing. All you could hear this, yes, yes, or the Cool Moss and chanting. It's like you're in this chanting, not knowing where you're going anywhere. And we got there and did the firewalk. I got a little burns there. But this trip, I was so much more prepared. It was beautiful in San Jose. Came outside. We had our kids with us. We were one of the first ones kind of out there and had no problem, walked across and celebrated. So it was exciting for me. It was exciting to have our kids there. And for Reagan and I in the last year, since we've been through UPW and now through several of these, I think we've started to really work on celebration and working towards those goals. But I think one of the things that hit me is, where Tony was saying, look, every 6 months, whether you come to one of my events or somebody else's event, go do something. Go put yourself outside the box. That's a little bit what Garrett was saying, that if you don't agree with something, go try it. Because I think just go trying different things and doing things gives you meet new people, give you some new thoughts to think about. And I think that really came across for me. And then another one for me was when he was talking about peak performance, but talking about the whole physiological kind of where you're setting up, where your sternum is and how you're setting up. Because for me, I'm a lot of times, sometimes I can be really kind of shy and quiet, believe it or not. And so sometimes people are kind of like, what's he thinking? Or get your head down. Or I go into a meeting. And actually from our last one, I remember it was a good fresher, because when I go in sometimes in some public meetings, it's just easy. All of a sudden you kind of walk in, you're not quite sure what you're going to say. You're not real positive. So what happens? You start shallow breathing. You kind of lower your head. Everything kind of drops. But as soon as you can walk in with a different idea where you kind of open yourself up and be excited about what you're doing and happy with what you're doing, I think that was a big reminder for me. And I think for me, just going back through all the different events, and plus, honestly, seeing Christian and Ellie, our two kids there with us, kind of seeing what they're going through. They were close to us. Some of them not always close, but just kind of hearing their feedback and feeling like you're passing it on and trying to be a great parent. And that was really something for me, was really great.
Awesome. Yeah, it was funny because our kids said the first time we went to UPW, we went, wow, they could have shortened that up, but there sure was a lot of celebration and dancing and stuff. And so this time the kids said, gosh, they spent a lot of time doing a lot of celebrating and dancing and stuff. And I go, oh, you mean having fun? And that was I'm so glad that they said that to me, because I was like, now I get why that happens there, right? Because one is your brain can't absorb that much information without a break in your state. And two is it's all about really enjoying your life, right? So, Richard, did you have anything else you wanted to share about any of that?
Well, I was just saying, everybody probably knows when Tony would be talking for a while or kind of get into it for a while, and he could sense the crowd, and the crowd was getting, kind of quiet, not quite there. And all of a sudden, he would just stop where he's at, go back, bring the music up, get the chant going. People would all of a sudden just quickly, you probably noticed the energy came back into the room for a while and just kind of re-energize the room so everybody's back in state, because it was easy. Everybody starts slipping away. People start walking out the door to go to the bathroom. Everybody kind of gets out of state. And he was really, one thing about watching Tony, and he didn't do that many interventions like he did at the other UPW that we were at, Reagan, and just seeing how he can really sense people or sense the 6 needs and what people are all about and how they come across. He is really intuitive when it comes to that. I really enjoyed watching that every time. It's a good thing.
You reminded me something, Richard, about that getting in state. So this morning after I did my breathing, I ended up deciding to go for like a 15-minute run, and I was tired and I was kind of like worried about my week a little bit. And so I started doing those incantations, and I did my power move, and I stood over by the little league field, and these cars are driving by, and I'm like, yes, yes. And then I bolted up this hill, and I felt so strong, and I ran home, and then we got the kids ready, and then I went on my day. And so it really was good.
That's good.
Yeah, good job. That is awesome. Well, a couple of things I also, and again, we could go on for hours and hours, because here's my whole book of all my notes from the whole year, and here's all UPWs, like almost, a good portion of this, but some things that I pulled out for you guys tonight was, one thing we've all talked about celebration and having fun, and for you to get anything out of anything, if you want to get the most out of your Juice Plus business, there's really 4 rules, and that is, 1, you must have fun. Okay, it's got to be fun, or you're probably not going to be super attractive. You're not going to be super successful if you're not having fun. You must play full out, and that's, I think, goes back to some of the Firewalk, is you can't hesitate. It's like, look, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. I'm going to have an event. I'm going to invite. Okay. 3 is you must absolutely have an open mind and be open to it may not turn out the way that you expected it to, or somebody may have a better idea, or there may be a different way of doing something. And then the 4th is you must allow a coach and a mentor to assist you, and really truly assist you. Get with somebody that holds you accountable, that really encourages you to be your best self, that's willing to say things to you that maybe you don't want to hear sometimes, right? So that you can grow. And he talked about, he says drugs are not our biggest addiction in our country. It's problems. People are addicted to their problems. And one of the things that he did is people would have a problem that he did an intervention, and he'd say, okay, how many of you here have had that problem? And he'd say, we'd have this person up front with him. He'd say, turn around, and there'd be, 60, 70% of the room all had raised their hand. And he said, see, nobody's problems are unique. We all think our problems are the most important. And everybody else has some of the same problems. So, and then he said, change is the only thing that's absolutely guaranteed. So many of us are afraid of change. And even if you do nothing, things are going to change. Your body's going to change. Your life can change. Your relationships can change. Your health can change. But when you're strong, some people, when you're changing, can be annoyed by you, and that's okay. So he says, look, don't hang out with people who don't support you. Don't hang out with people who support you in your limiting beliefs. You want to hang out with people that really want to live life at a higher level. If you're around people that are constantly worried about you growing, it's probably time to find a new peer group. How many of you guys can relate with that? Yeah. And then the other thing I thought was great, he said, that I thought was really good about being successful is he calls it immersion coaching. And I thought, gosh, our virtual franchise follows this so much in the fact that number one for the best immersion coaching is to have an event blast off. Well, that's our 2000 plus, right? Helping people get up to a quick start and having a coach to hold you accountable. And then he said, if you're smart, you'll use prime time or net time, which means no extra time, and listen to something motivational or read something motivational 10 minutes a day, twice a day, just to keep your brain there, because our brains are not designed to make us happy. They're designed to protect us. And so you want to get into your heart and get out of your head. And I thought that was awesome. So those were kind of my takeaways. Does anybody have any questions, or does anybody else have anything else to offer? And we'll be doing some voice comms over some of this stuff too, by the way. Any other takeaways, Missy? Or Richard?
I wish I could come up with something, but everybody's kind of covered it. So there's thousands. If I look through my book, it's like, oh, there's another one. There's another one. But
I'll just say, and it's not necessarily plugging Tony, I guess, but Reagan and I went to Date with Destiny, and smaller group, about 3,500 people, but they really take kind of the big picture, what we learned over the UPW, and they really break it down more individually and more personally, and really helps you kind of set your goals and set what's really holding you back. And if you guys get a chance and you want to go farther, I would really recommend going to Date with Destiny.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, that's what I'd say, just to add on to this is, I wasn't sure if we were going to charlatan and the whole idea of, are we Tony actually mentioned, he said, do you have people back home that are wondering if you're drinking the Kool-Aid? And what I appreciate about that is I was concerned about that. And the amazing thing is that he seems so real, and that whole thing is gone. I'm thrilled to have been able to go. So I think you take what you want out of it and do something with it. But I think he is the real deal, and it's fun to see him work. It's fun to see him work a crowd too, and it's fun to have the crowd work with him.
Well, they work with him because they love him.
Yeah.
And there's no coercion ever. You can get up when you want. You can come when you want. You can leave when you want. And if you want to hear what he has to say, and most everybody will sit there and not want to miss a moment, because he's so, it's so truthful and so simple. I think that's the other thing, is it's just so simple that we all go, this is all stuff we already know, but we've gotten so caught up in what people think about us, and worried about whether we're going to be successful or not be successful, or if we're going to say the right thing or say the wrong thing, that we just get paralyzed by it. And so sometimes kind of coming back to what our true essence is, it allows us to move forward. And so I hope that some of these have been helpful for you guys that haven't been able to go. I hope you'll get an opportunity to go to UPW sometime, and or something by Tony Robbins on tape, or off of he has a podcast. You can watch I Am Not Your Guru. There's all kinds of things you can do, but we'll be sharing some more as we go along. And we've barely tickled the surface. We kind of talked about the Firewalk and a few things, but we're out of time already. Amazing. So thanks for plugging in, you guys.
Thanks everyone for sharing. It was good to kind of